Welcome back on the channel, guys. Inter's kickoff in the 25-26 Serie A season looms ever closer. So today's video, we're going to rank the top 3 players under the most pressure at Inter this season. And to do it, I'm actually going to use Hajj Ball's video. If you don't know, if you're not familiar, this is one of the most prolific content creators when it comes to Serie A. Hopefully, I will do a collab with him soon. But yeah, he made a video ranking his 3 players. I've watched the video, but I've only seen his first two players that he said, and I agree with them. And I'll keep my last one as a surprise to see who it is. But of course, you make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel and Hajball. So let's get started with his number 1 player and his reasoning. Let's see if we agree with him or not. You guys let me know
in the comments. Number 1, I feel like it's self-explanatory, especially when you bear in mind what happened during the summer and when you look at the overall interest in his name. Hakan Calhanoglu. Now, of course,
Hakan. Number 1, straight away, Hakan. I agree. I think he is the one under the most pressure. Let's see Hajj's reasoning.
Hakan Calhanoglu, he's getting older season by season. Hakan Calhanoglu is picking up more injuries, but Hakan Calhanoglu is still a very impactful player in Inter's midfield. Like the role that he does, there's not many players that can do it in an Inter shirt. And you could see last season when Calhanoglu played and he played to the best of his ability, Inter looked like a far better team. But we never saw that on many occasions because of the injuries, because of him being substituted at times. Listen, Calhanoglu, for me, this is a massive season, especially after what happened in the Club World Cup between him, Lautaro Martinez, Beppe Marotta, the comments, everything on social media. Then you look at the fact that Galatasaray were desperate for his signature. Teams in the Middle East till now, like El Nasser, are looking at him. I feel like Inter definitely look at him and say, you are a player that we're probably going to be open to letting you go maybe in 12 months' time. But if in 12 months' time, Hakan Calhanoglu has rolled back the years and he's had performances very similar to Inter's Scudetto winning campaign from 2 years ago, people might look at him and say, you know what? You're not finished yet. There's still some more juice that we can squeeze out of you. And I feel like Calhanoglu, it's going to be a massive season. Like, I feel like the Inter fan base is a little bit split on him because some maybe feel like he didn't give it his all last season. Maybe some feel like the comments in the summer where maybe he could have made himself available for the Club World Cup, but he never ever really wanted to. Then, like, I just feel like there's a lot of scrutiny under his name. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of doubt. Does he really want to be at Inter? I don't know, but I feel like this season he needs to put everything aside. He needs to put
Yeah, he's spitting. He's spitting. I think Hakan, Scudetto winning season, he was for me, even ahead of Lautaro, would have put him as the season MVP because he was so consistent throughout the year, became one of the best CDMs in the world. But we've discussed it. I was one of the first to start kind of saying, like, all the way back in January already, the injuries were starting to worry me. This Brozo 2.0 situation unfolding. And yeah, as Haj mentioned, the Galatasaray, Fenerbahce, Middle East, does he want to stay? The Club World Cup drama, which wasn't really his fault at the end of the day. It was Beppe Marotta spilling the leaking the secrets of the dressing room for some reason. But yeah, I think he's, if he is staying, again, I'll leave it up right until the last minute of the transfer window to say that Hakan is staying. I won't believe it till he is staying. But if he does stay, he's one of the highest paid players in the team and in the league. Definitely, he is under pressure to deliver.
The injuries aside, and he needs to replace that with consistency, with being reliable, with being impactful. If he doesn't step up this season, he's gone next summer. No debate. He's gone next summer, and Inter will bring in somebody. But if he does perform and he does show the consistency and he does show that quality, there's not many registers of his level in the modern game. Like Hakan Calhanoglu dropping deep, spraying passes left, right, and center. He genuinely was amazing in that Scudetto winning campaign. This season, he needs to go back to that level. So I have him as numero uno, the first player under pressure. I was going to mention mainly.
And there is number 2, Fede Dimarco. And again, I agree. Dimarco has now probably become one of the most heavily criticized Inter players out there. Before, he was one of the most loved because he is an Interista. He grew up as an Interista. He's from Milano. He used to attend games. We used to go to the Curva Nord, all that kind of stuff. But his fall over the last 6 months or so, and especially that embarrassing Champions League final when Yamal pulled his pants down as well, like, it's just been a downfall, a downward trajectory from Fede. But let's see Hajj's reasoning. but I already agree with him.
Because I feel like that Champions League performance has left such a bitter taste in so many Inter fans' mouths. Tactically, individual performance, and you look at like his reading of the game, his inability to assess situations defensively, his inability to be at the right place at the right time on a consistent basis. And when you bear in mind that throughout the entire Champions League run, whether it was Bayern Munich, whether it was Barcelona, everybody always looked at Dimarco and said, as much as you benefit this team offensively with your playmaking, with your goal scoring, defensively, you are a massive liability. And I feel like this season, maybe he needs to move away from being labeled as Dimarco, the wing back that gets you goals and gets you assists and scores you free kicks, to now being labeled as Dimarco, the complete fullback, the complete wing back, the complete defender, somebody that can have an impact on games, both ends of the field. Offensively, it's no debate. He's one of the best in this area, if not the best in this area. But I feel like defensively, he's definitely somebody you could target. He's definitely somebody you can get the beating of. And I feel like just his performance in the Champions League final, like his...
Yeah, I agree. But I think with Dimarco, he just needs to return to form. I don't want to criticize him overly. You guys know my thoughts. He's, not blessed athletically, physically by the Almighty. He's short, he's stubby, he's not quick. He doesn't seem to have much stamina, but it seems to be made worse from what what I read things. These are gossips and rumors, but he's not the most dedicated individual, professional outside of the pitch as well, which I think you can already see at the age of 26. It seems to be already catching up to him. With his body type, he probably needs to be twice, 3 times as more professional as other guys out there to push his body to the limit, past the limit of what it can do. But we've seen him in the past, there's big games where Dimarco was one of our best players. If you're talking about, this past Champions League final, he was embarrassing. But let's talk about the previous Champions League final against Man City. He was probably one of the best players on the pitch at that time. And in that Champions League campaign as well. I remember playing against Barcelona. He was up against Dembele, guys like that, Rafinha, and he performed well in some big games. I almost started to think of Dimarco in big games, especially, against Milan as well. In the Milan derbies, he used to step up in big moments, and he wasn't really too much of a defensive liability for most of the time. This past season, he definitely took a step back in that. But I think with Dimarco, he just needs to definitely return to form. And we know that Carlos Augusto really pushing for that starting spot. So if he wants to keep that starting spot, I think Carlos Augusto is pretty much there. In the last few months of last season, most of the fan base said Augusto should be starting ahead of him because we trust him more defensively. And Augusto started to finally show the attacking side of things that we signed him from Monza. And now we also got Luis Enrique, the Brazilian fullback, wingback that we can play on the left-hand side as well. So Dimarco, definitely, if he wants to keep his place in this team as a starter, needs
positioning, turning, far more tenacious, far more. Sometimes Dimarco, he shies away from that. He's more interested in getting the goals, getting the spotlight for doing things in the final third, when in reality, your primary purpose is to stop the opposition from scoring, from creating opportunities. And I also feel like the fact that Luis Enrique can play both, like he can play as a left side Marco to stack Dimarco in the final third. And if anything, he probably will look like a far better defender. If not, Carlos Augusto is always more than ready to step up into his position. Yes, Dimarco, he has the reputation at Inter as being their best wing back, but maybe that was under Simone. Based on what you're doing now under my reign, and if you can't defend and you're coming across like a defensive liability week in, week out, you might get phased out of the team. And I've seen it happen when new coaches come in. So the second player, Dimarco.
Yep.
And the third player under pressure at Inter, in my opinion,
Let's see. I don't know about this player.
Is the captain. It was difficult. It was either Marcus Thuram or Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah, I agree. I would say it's between Thuram and Lautaro as well. Let's see Hajj's reasoning.
And I've ended up going with Lautaro Martinez. I feel like Lautaro Martinez, when it came to the knockout stages of the Champions League, he was there. Like, he was the Lautaro Martinez you wanted, the captain, the guy that stepped up, the guy that took all the pressure on his shoulders and he delivered the goods week in, week out, home, away, big pressure moments. But I feel like last season, like Lautaro Martinez throughout the entire Serie A campaign, he was a little bit of a letdown offensively. As much as, yes, he gets involved, he creates opportunities, he scores you goals. But one thing a lot of people seem to forget is that the season prior, when Inter won the Scudetto, he scored 24 league goals. Like, he was the talisman. He was the goals back in the net. And I'm punishing the opposition. last season, he played more minutes, even though similar amount of appearances. He scored 50% less. He scored 12 league goals. Now, of course, we can always turn around and say Inter last season weren't as good offensively as they were the season before when they won the Scudetto. But now I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, with all of the unrest around Inter, especially in the summer, from the Champions League final humiliation to Simone Inzaghi leaving, to Beppe Marotta's comments, to now bringing in some younger player, Sucic. He's young. He needs somebody to stand by him. Somebody like Luis Enrique, he needs. I feel like Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez, they always do. We can get away with murder. We can miss 50 opportunities. Who's really coming in to replace Correa? Correa will miss you 51. Arnautovic, he's not really going to pull strings like that. Now with Inter, if Lautaro Martinez doesn't step up, if Marcus Thuram doesn't step up, there's Bonnie, and Bonnie's looked great in preseason. There's Esposito, he's looked great. And these guys come with hunger. These guys come with a statement to make. Like, these guys actually want to cement their spot in the team. Complacency in football is what results in a player's performances dropping off. Martinez, for me, this season, under a new coach, after the embarrassment of last season, he now needs to unite the camp. He needs to be the captain. He needs to be the consistent performer. He needs to be the guy that has an impact on games on a consistent basis all over the park, because Martinez can do it. And for me, it was difficult because I could also turn around and say Lautaro Martinez, because his like-for-like replacement in terms of the way they play the game is somebody like Bonnie, okay? But Martinez, for me, the drop-off offensively in terms of his output, to go from 24 to 12, and I feel like last season he did come across a little bit wasteful in the final third. It's definitely something he needs to rectify this season, and I feel like it will be massive for somebody like Kivu. Walking in, the pressure of Inter, knowing how last season ended, knowing about all the question marks. Are you ready for the job? Can you step up? He needs his captain on his side, and he needs his captain fully fit and fully firing on all cylinders on a consistent basis.
Yep, I 100% agree with him on that one, Hajj. As I said, I was 50-50, if I would say, between Thuram and Lautaro. In the point that Hajj made about Boni and Esposito being there, ready to take the spot, I think Lautaro probably will benefit from being the captain, being kind of this leader, and I think he won't really feel the pressure. I think Thuram is definitely the one that will feel the pressure of, there's this Bonnie guy who can do everything that Thuram can do. He just needs to iron out his finishing. And Esposito, every time he comes on, he can really, he's a goal threat pretty much every single game he comes on. But yeah, I agree. Lautaro last season, 50% less goals, 12 goals in the league. That is not acceptable. And again, maybe he shouldn't come into the reasoning, but now he is, aside from Vlahovic's ridiculous salary, Lautaro is the highest paid player in Serie A. He is kind of the face of Serie A. He's the face of Inter, the captain. 12 league goals is not going to cut it. He needs to get back to 20 plus league goals, trying to carry Inter. I appreciate it. Definitely, it was his best Champions League season last year. Finally stepping up consistently in the Champions League. I really appreciated him for that. But this season, one thing Hajj didn't mention, last season, we know Lautaro had issues coming into the season. The Copa America, he was there right until the end. He was the top scorer of the Copa America. Cut his holiday short because Taremi got an injury at the end of preseason, so he cut his holiday short to start first game, but maybe shouldn't have in retrospect. He should have rested more, come back fresher. And he basically was playing catch up for the first 2-3 months, and we only really saw him physically at his top maybe starting end of October, November, and then really starting to hit form in December, January. So we basically played with a 70% Lautaro for the first half of the season, and that definitely punished Inter. And I think a Lautaro at 80, 90%, 100% fitness at the beginning of this season, I think that's already extra points in Inter's bag, but the pressure is on Lautaro Martinez. And that is the video today, guys. Hakan, Dimarco, Lautaro, the top 3 players under the most pressure. Yes, you could mention the likes of Acerbi, De Vrij, these old dudes that Inter are now renewing. But it's not really their fault. They're under pressure because Inter are not moving on for them. Well, once again, by the looks of it. You could also say Barella, who had a bit of an off season towards the end of last season as well. You could say that, you know, if he's a top 5 midfielder in the world, he needs to step up more often, especially in big games. But I'm happy with his top 3. You let me know your top 3 in the comments down below. Thank you to Hajj. Bull. See you on the next one, guys. Ciao ragazzi. Always.